I figured I'd make a quick video about an M44. I haven't done one of these in a while. This particular one, as you can see, is 1945. Izhevsk, of course. They were the only ones making them in 45. This is a typical Ukrainian import with the usual lighter colored but reddish shellac. This one, as you can see, has actually a toe splice in there. And there is the refurb for wood stamp on there. Pretty well typical M44 Soviet refurbished carbine. Early style bayonet lug on there. You can see that. The handguard apparently wasn't refurbished, or was refurbished in a different color. Guess they did that in a different batch. Usual black paint on the end caps there. It's a PW Arms import. This one sometime in the first decade of the 21st century. Matching numbers, of course, as they generally are. Now you can see with this, there's usually a reason for these toe splices on there. If you notice, the crack, well, not crack, the splice lines up almost perfect with that lower screw on there. The Mosin uses a fairly large screw, and it can cause a crack at that spot. Or they just might have reused a stock blank that was a little bit small, and to make use of it, they simply crafted an extra piece on the end. Thrifty little bastards, the communists. Gotta give them that much. Got some nice graining in there. Now, I collected M44s by year, starting 1943, ending 1948. Some were harder to get than others, year-wise anyway. This one wasn't too bad. It only took me about 6-7 months to find this one, back when I was collecting them. But in the end, I did find them all. 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48. And a 1944 Tula, and a few other oddballs in there. Like, what do I have there? Oh yeah, I have a DDR one. When I have a spare 43 that's DDR. I think I've shown that already. And is there an MO? I don't know if I have an MO carbine or not. I forget. Nobody knows what MO means anyway, so who the hell cares? You can see this one's a new enough import to have the large banner import mark on it. And do we have a refurb stamp on there? No, this one I left it off. They didn't put one on this one. Sometimes they did. It's a box with a slash in it, a diagonal slash. And sometimes they simply didn't. Guess depending on how lazy they were that day. This one, at least, it is stamped numbers. Some of them are EP'd, electro-penciled. Really makes no difference. All this matching numbers crap, it's really a European thing, not an American thing. In the United States, we generally just stamp one number on a weapon. A lot easier that way when it comes time to do the refurbs. And you don't have to be constantly keeping track of what parts go with what gun. As long as the bolt stays on there, does it really matter if the magazine is off another weapon? Not really. They're all the same. They're all mass-produced. But to the Europeans, and particularly the Swiss, the Germans, and who else did it? The Belgians too? Yeah, the Belgians did too, I think. Every last little part of the rifle had to be serial numbered, even down to the last 2 digits of the serial number on the screws. I mean, come on, the screws, you're going to lose a screw eventually, so what do you got to do, have a screw restamped? I always thought that was pretty stupid. And here you can see, this is an original box of Soviet World War II, 1945 dated ammunition. It's actually 45. I'm pretty sure this is the 45. Unless I grabbed the wrong box. Actually, this might be 1947. I forget what's in that one. On the clip, it's 1947. Close enough. Looks exactly like that anyway. Typical copper wash steel case. On an actual Izhevsk clip. If I could, this one show the marking clearly or not? Nah, it's stamped too lightly, you really can't see it, but it is. Soviet clips are, you know, they never worked really that well in the Mosins. None of the clips did. But at least the Soviet ones worked at all, you know. Some of the aftermarket ones were nothing short of pathetic. And what attracted me to this one was just the lighter color of the stock was a nice change. A lot of my other M44s are very dark red. This one's almost a blonde color. Now this one's got an immaculate bore. I mean, it's like it was never used. Absolute sharp lands and clean grooves in there. No snow at all. Very good shape. Which is probably typical. 45, the war was just about over, so they wouldn't have been using them a whole hell of a lot. This one probably went into storage fairly quickly after the end of the war. See some nice little stamps on the end there. They wouldn't have had much reason to keep a lot of them out once they started demobilizing some of the army. And of course eventually switching to SKSs and AK-47s. He's got an odd number 2 stamped on there. Reasons unknown, like so many of the so many of the markings period on these rifles. Nobody knows what the hell. Now you see this? This has an electro-penciled number on the magazine, not on the bolt. I don't know, is there one on there? Let's see. No, we have a regular stamp number right there on the butt plate. And we have one on the bolt. But for some reason, they EP'd the number on the magazine. I don't know why. Just one of the many mysteries of why they made these things the way they did. Maybe they simply forgot to number it and had to go back and do it later. You never can tell. And here's an interesting pouch. This is a tool pouch. Black vinyl. You find a lot of different materials used to make these. Some are your basic green canvas. Others are an almost very decorative style automotive type pattern vinyl, and this leatherette style fake leather. Of course, it's just canvas with vinyl on it. Black, some are more red, some are more brown. And I think this one was a gift from Chuck. Chuck, you know who you are. Well, I seem to have so many of them lying around. With all the rifles I got, sometimes I would get 3 and 4 of those, which was good, because some rifles didn't come with any. So it works out in the end. And the M44, it was basically the last version of the Soviet Mosin Nagant. They didn't bother refining it anymore after this. The Finns, they pretty much stopped with the M39, except for a few sniper-type rigs and specialty rifles, but this was the last one the Soviets designed. This ended up being the basis for the Chinese Type 53 and all, you know, the various ones made in the Warsaw Pact countries, like Romania, Yugoslavia, so on. North Korea, possibly. And had this been sent there, this could very well have ended up being used in North Korea. Not others like it would have been. They seem to have all gone through the same type of Soviet refurb before being sent over there. This one ended up being packed in a box and stashed in a salt mine over there in Ukraine someplace until the 1990s when they started selling them for hard cash. And that is a look today at the M44 Izhevsk 1945. And you can see that the wartime expedient finish on the receiver is no longer evident in 1945. We are now back to a nicely finished receiver. The war was about over. There was plenty of time to do it right. No more tool marks and gash marks and everything else. It's all nicely done. Although I'm sure there were a few wartime parts hidden in there from the refurb, because when these things were refurbished, they essentially just took the rifles completely apart, dumped all the parts into a big vat with similar parts, you know, all butt plates over there, all bolt heads over there, extractors over here, so on and so forth. Refurbished everything in large batches, and at the end of the line they put them all back together again, without regard of when they were made, where they were made, who made them. As long as they fit, that's what mattered. They had to fit, they had to work, and they renumbered everything, put it all back together again. Typical refurb operation. The Soviets didn't invent that, and they sure as hell weren't the only ones to use it. We did the same thing with all of our war weapons too. So did the various other countries. Now the Germans didn't do things that way, neither did the British. They did it more one-on-one because they were more anal about keeping the parts of the rifle together. From what I've observed from rifles in my own collection, I've never yet seen a German rifle that appeared to have gone through a Soviet or US style of refurb. Refurbs, yes. Upgrades, yes. That I've seen. And of course the Russian captures, they went through this kind of refurb. I'm talking about the actual German military issued rifles. The ones that were not captured except in the Western Front, or maybe sold after the war. Those ones tend to be mostly like parts, maybe a few mismatching numbers, but the basic bare bones of the rifle is all from the same place. And that's our lecture today on M44s. If you have a chance to get one, get one. If you can get one of the earlier imports like this, all the better, because the story on these ones is known, unlike some other ones, which we really don't know where the hell they're coming from these days. These are an open book, pretty much as any Soviet weapon is.